Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first session of the day. I'm Lizzie, and I'm Marketing Director here at RMP. If you're wondering if I'm in a lovely hot country, I'm not. Unfortunately, I am in, well, not unfortunately, but I'm in Brixton, which is very cold. So we're coming to you live from the Brixton office. So hello, lovely to be here. I have the absolute pleasure of introducing our first speakers of the day. So we have Antri, Claire and Bianosa from Centrica. They're going to be talking about how important women are at Centrica and why you should consider a career with them. So I'll hand it over to you and enjoy.
Thanks so much, Lizzie. Hi, everyone. My name is Bianosa Abite. I work in corporate communications at Centrica, and Andrew's really the person that will tell you all about what it's like working here and what her career journey has been like. But I thought it'd be quite useful to give you a little bit of an overview, just very briefly, about us as a company and what we do. So I'll just put my screen on so that you can see that. So a brief introduction to us at Centrica. So a lot of you probably know us as British Gas, and that's probably the most famous part of our business. It's been going for 200 years, and we supply energy to you, and we also supply services as well. So you may have come across products like Hive, which you control on your phone. You can control your central heating from your mobile phone using an app. So you've probably heard of us via that way as well. We also have a business that serves the Irish market. So we provide energy and services through our company called Bord Gáis. They're based in Ireland. We also have a part of our business that supplies energy and solutions to businesses as well. So that's Centrica Business Solutions. And then we have a trading arm as well called Energy Marketing and Trading. And they essentially buy energy on the markets. They're also responsible for managing kind of supply arrangements, purchase power agreements they're called, where we buy lots of green energy and help businesses to get their supply of energy into their business. And then we also have our upstream business, and there are energy and production assets, which we're actually in the process of selling. We've said that we're going to sell that part of our business in due course. And also we have an interest in the UK's nuclear fleet, 20%. As well. So we've got quite a diverse and interesting business that we run. I think actually working in the energy sector right now is really exciting because, as you probably all know, we've just had COP26 and there's a big focus on actually how can we as a country, but also as the energy sector, help in this transition to net zero. So it's really, really an exciting time to be in energy. Just a little bit about what we do as a business in terms of why we are particularly looking for more women to join our business. So we have what's called our People and Planet Plan. And this essentially is all about how we want to create a much more fairer place for people, but also how we're going to play our part to help as we try to get to net zero and reduce our carbon footprint that we have both as a business and also through our customers. So we've set out some goals, and you'll see that the first one is around the recruitment of apprentices. So by 2030, we aim to recruit 3,500 apprentices into our business. And what we'd really like is that 50% of those apprentices that are coming through our doors to be women. And we think it's so important because for various reasons. Because, half the population is, are made up of women. So it's really important that we reflect that. And also, it's really important that our workforce reflects not only our customers, but also wider society. There's lots of kind of perhaps traditional stereotypes coming into STEM and engineering, but we're trying to break those down, and we're doing a lot of work with organisations like Tech She Can, Tech We Can, to get more women into our doors. We think it's so important, particularly as we are trying to work, as I've said, for us to get to net zero. We really need everybody to be included in that journey. We're also really big as a business on diversity and inclusion in general, and we're doing a lot to help evolve our culture and actually get a workforce that's really, really engaged and reflects the full diversity of our communities that we serve. So that's not just for gender, that's across all of the protected characteristics. It's really important. The other thing that we do as a business is we really strongly believe in volunteering. And so what we're trying to do is really inspire our colleagues to give their time, which we pay for, to actually help to build inclusive communities. So members of staff can go out and volunteer for various organisations, and Centrica will support them with their time. And then I mentioned earlier that we are really on this journey to help our customers be net zero by 2050. And we're doing that through our products and services. So things like EV charging points, if you've got an EV car, we're looking at heat pumps, for example. And all of these things actually are things that apprentices and then trained engineers or smart energy experts will actually help with, but also not only the apprentices that come through our academies, but also there are other STEM roles, which Andrew will tell you about, that we have in our business that are really crucial in helping our customers to be net zero by 2050. And also as a business, we've kind of brought forward our own goals. So for our own carbon footprint as a business, we're bringing that forward by 5 years. And so we want to be a net zero business by 2045. I hope that gives you a very brief but good overview of who we are as a business and what it is that we're trying to do and why it is that we're so proactive and really looking forward to more women joining our business in lots of the various STEM roles that we have. I'm now going to pass over to Antwi, who will talk to you about her experiences of her STEM career journey at Centrica. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Well done on the presentation, Bieniosa. Now it's my turn, I guess. I've prepared some slides for you because personally, I'm a visual person, and I always find that having something visual to look at the screen is always the best way to go. So I will be sharing my screen. So good morning, everyone. My name is Andri Theodoru. I am from Cyprus. I'm currently a data scientist. I'm from the Centrica Commercial Analyst Graduate Scheme, and it's great being here with you today and getting the chance to talk to you about my journey in STEM as a woman. A little background first to get you familiar with who I am. This is a picture of me taken just last month. This was at an artificial intelligence and decision intelligence summit that I participated in. This is just one of the many fun activities I've been getting ever since joining the data science community. In university, I helped develop a means of analyzing radiation using commercial cameras. So I'm a nuclear physicist by trade. These days, you'll find me with my face buried deep in Stack Overflow, YouTube tutorials, statistics research papers, and all that good stuff. And just in general, constantly upskilling. I am part of the Centrica grad scheme, as I've mentioned, and this is ongoing. I am currently on my second out of a total of 3 placements. This time last year, I was an analyst protection unit. I got to work alongside and help shape strategic decisions of a team of people that detect energy theft. I helped transform their reporting suite from tabular to graphical. And it was also a great time for me to sort of like realize my career and start questioning those things. And I realized that I would really like to keep developing my technical skill set. And to do that, I diverged a little bit from the typical analyst path, and I decided to interview for a data scientist position. And right now, my second placement, I'm a data scientist with the energy data science team. I am working alongside my line manager in developing a piece of code that will be taken into production So that is very exciting times indeed. And hopefully for my third and final placement, I can keep on being a data scientist because I really like where I am with this title. And if possible, I'd like to keep doing it. And all I can say is that looking back on my own timeline, I think that child me would be buzzing if she got to hear everything I've been getting up to. As a kid, my favorite class was maths class. I was the kind of kid that would attend anything maths and physics related. So stuff like maths camp, maths competition, physics competitions, you name it, I probably attempted it. And while I definitely enjoyed myself at those events, it was definitely obvious to child me that the majority of participants in those events were boys, and the teachers facilitating those events were mostly male, especially for one time, my high school physics teacher, he told us at the beginning of our class that he actually expects most of the dropouts for this class to be the female students. And he wasn't saying this to be mean or anything. He was actually citing statistics that he saw from his own experience as being a physics teacher for many decades now. And unfortunately, it's a statistic I've also experienced all too well myself. As someone coming from a very tight-knit community, people can be very vocal about their opinions and often cite things like traditional values as their justifications for their opinions. For an instance, I've had older family members be angry at me for choosing to pursue a university degree because they simply didn't think that women needed one. So those are the sort of situations that I had to deal with growing up. But if anything, they made me even more further committed into getting an education because it was obvious to me that education is going to be the greatest chance I have to be who I want to be. So by 2016, I completed my high school education. I had my A-levels. I had a pretty sweet resume, if I say so myself, that I felt reflected who I was. And so I applied for universities for a physics degree. And I got in on my first choice at the University of Manchester. And I think it's fair to say it was love at first sight. I got to play around sessions. I got to have the chance of playing around with a lot of expensive equipment that I wouldn't have gotten my hands on otherwise. And also just sort of like allowing myself the freedom to discover what kind of physicist and scientist I wanted to be. As a side note to this, I feel like it's important. We're often bombarded with all those depictions about what a physicist or a scientist, more broadly speaking, should look and act like. I'm looking at you, Big Bang Theory. And I just want to say that if you diverge from this norm, that's perfectly fine. It doesn't make you any less capable or brilliant or good at your job. And also, if you happen to fall within those stereotypes, that is perfectly fine as long as you're being your authentic self. And it's also a lot of fun to always involve yourself in extracurricular activities that may not be typical for someone with your degree and module choices. For example, I got to write an article once on my university newspaper. Certainly an experience I've learned a lot from. And at that point, once I finished my university education, I got my bachelor's and master's in physics. Contrary to my mentor's advice, I decided that I didn't want to continue in academia. I didn't want to pursue a PhD. I certainly thrived in academia and I enjoyed my time there and the type of people I got to speak to. But I really felt like the industry is where I belonged. I had done an internship prior to that back in my home country of Cyprus on solar concentration energy. And I remember how rewarding it felt to be involved in the energy industry. And I wanted to keep that streak going. So I applied and I got in the Centrica analyst grad scheme. And I am here, I think I had my 1-year anniversary back in October. And I've certainly grown a lot as a person and I've explored my career a lot through my employment. So as I said, I began as an analyst, but I sort of like developed into this data scientist person. And I'm actually here because of the Centrica Women's Network, which is one of the many communities that we have in Centrica, because they're the ones that have advertised me. And it's just one of the many ways in which my employer enables me to hopefully make a difference. Having said that, I'd also like to talk to you about some challenges I faced along the way. I'm not saying that you will face those challenges or that all women in STEM face these challenges. Things that I've noticed to be quite common to the people I've been talking with. So I have listed unsupportive environments as my number one nemesis. Quite often, it may not be obvious bigotry that gets you down. It can also be all those comments and of like jokes that someone will make that you know in your gut makes you feel uncomfortable, but you feel awkward commenting on. And it's all those things that can go a long way towards you internalizing doubt about yourself and your own abilities. As number two, I'm listing mental health and staying focused, and I've put in bold in here. I actually found imposter syndrome to be way more common than I imagined it to be. One time, a researcher told us that he's experiencing imposter syndrome because the guy in the office next to him publishes more papers per year than him. And it just goes to show you how many great things you'll achieve, you can still fall victim to mental health issues like imposter syndrome. And I'm not saying this to like invalidate your experience in case you're experiencing those sort of things. I'm just saying that, you know, there's a stigma created around it. And the more discussions we have about it, hopefully it will become to reach out and get help about it and sort of like realize that maybe you're more capable than you think and more deserving of your position than you may have lied to yourself into thinking you're not. Lastly, you may not necessarily relate to this, but adapting to a new culture has definitely been challenging for me. Not just in being an immigrant, but also switching modes between academia and work mode, because I'm someone that definitely likes predictability. So switching modes has been a bit challenging for me. Having said that, I didn't want this to just be a presentation where it's just me telling you, oh, I had X, Y, and Z issue. I also wanted this to end on a bit of an empowering note to tell you about some things I found that have definitely gone a long way in helping me deal with those. Number one is it's okay to rely on your support systems. And support systems can come in many shapes, forms, and sizes. Grounding exercises is also something that has definitely gone a long way in helping me cool my head and getting some perspective. Being organized personally helps me. So I'm the sort of person that likes things to be neat and tidy. And if my environment is not neat and tidy, it automatically reflects on my mood. So I think it's important to take time and put care into your surroundings. And last but not least is finding communities to keep you busy and a little bit sane to a healthy extent. So you can find those communities perhaps in your workplace or in your university. Centrica Women's Network is an example of such a community, but it's also important to diversify where you're getting those communities from. So not just from your workplace, you could also join a local book club like I have done with myself. Perhaps if you're sportier than I am, then you could join a sports club. But I'm just saying ideas now. You could probably apply them best to your own situations. And this is me, and this is my journey as a woman in STEM so far. This is the presentation I have prepared for you, and I hope that maybe what I said was able to ring true a little bit for you as well, and maybe we were some level between us. So I'll stop sharing my screen now.
Thank you so much. I thought I'd just join back again. Was there any more, Bianosa, from your side that you wanted to share, or are we ready for the questions?
I think we're ready for the questions.
Fabulous. Well, I just want to say thank you so much. You started the day with a very, very strong presentation. It's great to hear all about Centrica and people and the environment and everything you talked about there, Bianosa. Yeah, really, really interesting. And then Antri, just thank you for being so open and honest and sharing your experiences, because today is all about that. Everyone who's watching, it's about them being motivated and inspired by people like yourself. So yeah, really, really strong start. So thank you very, very much. So we've got quite a few questions that have come in from the audience. So if there are any more as we start chatting, we normally get more questions that come in because people kind of pick up things. So please do pop them in the chat. But I think it'd be really great to start off with, in terms of B&O, so your session around, or your section of the presentation, some of the students have been asking around, in terms of the skills that you're looking for, and I guess the projects as well that students can work on. You touched a bit on it, and it'd be great just to hear if there's any more around, what is it that students can expect to do if they join Centrica, touching on some of those things you talked about.
I think it's probably, I'm actually going to hand over to Andrew because she'll tell you her experience, which will be more authentic. But just in terms of the skills, I think what's really important is that, interestingly, this, and it might not apply to everyone, but we are pretty much open to hearing from all sorts of peer people from different backgrounds. And, during COVID, we recognised that lots of people kind of came out of COVID wanting to actually change their careers for people who are already in careers. And so therefore, for our apprenticeship scheme, you don't necessarily have to have technical skills at all, because you learn all of that on the job. You may have come via a route like entry via university and have those kind of academic foundation. But I think for our apprenticeship program, certainly it's open to all. But in terms of what you get to do, I mean, Andrew spoke about the fantastic and exciting work that she's working on at the moment. So maybe we do want to hear more about that in terms of what you can expect if you're a student coming in as a graduate.
All right. So what I'm gonna say is obviously going to be my experience. It's not gonna be like a universal experience, but I think there's also a strength to that, in that you get to tailor a lot of your own experience, and you have to make sure that you get what you want out of this like employment journey for yourself. Personally, I started as an analyst, and before I joined Centrica, I never would have thought that there is such a team, such as the energy theft detection team. And this is just one of the examples of the kind of like good surprises you get to experience by being involved in a big company like Centrica. So that was surprising, but at the same time, other people from my cohort, they were having different placements. So they were like in different sections of the business. Some of them got to experience being part of the net zero team, which I always thought that was also really, really exciting and promising. And then you go through like a process of rotation where you get to like make certain decisions about your next placement, because you don't really, your first placement, you sort of like get put into whatever is given to you, and you sort of like have a lot of roles available to you to choose. I remember there were probably up to like 30 roles the first time that I could have applied to, and you get to pick, 3. In my case, you get to interview for 3. And that is how I got the opportunity of sort of like tailoring my own path and becoming a data scientist. And these days, I'm getting to develop a lot of my technical skill set, getting a lot of training and a lot of resource support from my team and from the company in general. So like if there is a resource that you think would be great for your personal development, you have a chat with your line manager or with your graduate, and you can expense that resource. So yeah, that is what I have to say about it.
Awesome.
Sorry, just quickly to add, I think that's a good point. I think with a company of our size, you don't need to feel restricted and don't necessarily feel limited by whatever role you come in with. So for example, we've got a number of opportunities at the moment for smart energy expert apprentices. So initially that would be fitting smart meters, advising customers on their energy usage. But we already have a number of apprentices who've come on that way and have already retrained to install electric vehicle charge points, install heat pumps. So moving into that net zero space as things move so quickly and the organization moves so quickly. So whatever your route in, I think there's always opportunities to explore your passions in different areas of the business as well. So you don't need to feel limited, I guess, by that first step.
Lots of variety, and it's great to have all those roles open, because sometimes you just don't know what you want to do at that point. So sounds very, very open. Claire, I was going to say as well, we've had a few questions around what are the key skills. So if people are sitting here thinking, this sounds great, I'd love to join, what are those kind of key skills that you're looking for in applications?
So I think really it's very broad. I mean, if we're talking about apprentices, we're really looking just for that passion, that you want to get involved. So you don't need to necessarily think, oh, I've got no experience in energy, or just share what you've done, share your passion, share what else you've got involved in the community. We just really want to see that passion and commitment from you guys in terms of skill set. There's nothing particularly defined, so I would encourage you, if that's something you're interested in, just have a look. I mean, looking at the graduate schemes, there are obviously sort of particular degree qualifications and things that we're looking for in that space, but across that range of apprenticeships and graduate opportunities, there really should be pretty much something for everybody. So yeah, don't feel restricted if you haven't done certain sciencey subjects at school. If you're practically minded, if you love getting involved, getting stuck in, then definitely still have a look at some of those apprenticeship opportunities.
Brilliant. Cool. Thank you. And we have got one, I think this is a lovely one, Antri, back to you, if possible. So you had a very open story, like very it was brilliant to hear your journey. And I'd love to ask you, because actually quite a few women might be thinking, oh, it sounds like a great role, but some of my family might not agree, or it might not work as well. So how did you overcome the opinions and pressures of your sort of friends and family who didn't particularly approve of your career choice, as you mentioned?
Actually very lucky in the regard to have my parents biggest supporters, and especially my mother, who were women that they themselves were have experienced getting deprived of certain educational opportunities. So they were really big advocates for me. Personally, obviously you're growing up in a certain environment, you do internalize a lot of things, and you do fall into the mistake of mistaking other people's opinions as the opinion that you also have. But after a certain point, this is sort of a very unsustainable view to have about yourself. And you're sort of starting to realize this doesn't make any sense. And it's a very, so it's not I'm going to tell you this is how I did it and this is the only valid way that you can do it. But all I have to say about it is that I was just in very lucky circumstances to have my parents be the biggest advocates for me. And sort of me being exhausted with dealing with all this negativity and just deciding to focus on myself. I'm sorry if that is not exactly, the magic answer that can solve all problems, but really that was my experience with it. And honestly, not caring has really helped me a lot, especially in the past few years, and sort of enabling myself to get some distance, mentally and physically as well, from naysayers.
Amazing. Thank you. Very, very honest. I love it. So yeah, I'm just having a little look at some questions here. I think you touched on around the support that Centrica has, and you came to life, which was awesome when you were talking about the support and the different things that are happening at Centrica. So someone's asked around, what are the other activities that Centrica has to encourage women in the business? It'd be great just to hear a bit more about that.
So I'm gonna say my piece, but also my colleagues feel free to jump in because I'm sure you must have a lot of experience with this. So Centrica's Women's Network was one of the very first ones I've mentioned. The reality of the situation is actually there's many communities out there that I am part of, and every week there's gonna be an event in my calendar. For example, we have a community where we will agree to read a certain book or watch a certain film, and then we'll have a Teams meeting where we'll discuss about it. There is also workshops that I've been a part of from our Voice Network, which is an acronym for Valuing Our Identity and Ethnicity, I believe. And it was sort of workshops where they were they want to get your opinion on what your experience through our company is and sort of hear your suggestions. And that is one of the examples in which you get to have a role in shaping the company as well. We which is amazing if you think about it, because Centrica is such a big company and you might be mistaken to think that you will just be another number to them. But actually, those events have shown me that, if I'm experiencing an issue, I can definitely, there is like a forum where I can bring it up.
Yeah, and just to add to that, so one of the things that I've been able to make use of Centrica is actually mentoring. So I was part of a cohort from an organisation called Mission Include, and I think as a woman, mentoring is something that's really, really powerful. And so I appreciated that. I actually had a mentor organisation outside of Centrica. You can also choose to have a mentor within Centrica if you want, but I think that really helps you on your career journey and to talk about your experiences that you're having and to have a sounding board. And then just to kind of reiterate what Andrew said about the Women's Network, I'm lucky enough to be on the committee of the Women's Network, and it really is a brilliant community. We see ourselves as a network with teeth, so we try to drive forward the agenda for women. We have monthly events, so we have speakers, different types of women from across the business that talk about their experiences. It's a really friendly network, and we have lots of different types of networks at Centrica. And then also for me, it's about the culture. And, we have a relatively new CEO who's been in place for about 18 months. And one of the first things that he wanted to do was to help drive a different type of culture at Centrica. And so a lot of what we do has diversity and inclusion embedded in it. And, you can look at our leadership team, and we now have more senior kind of women in kind of reporting directly to him. So the culture's changing. It's a really positive culture, but D&I is really big on the agenda. And I think that is brilliant for women and brilliant for people who believe in having a workplace that's full of people from different backgrounds and with different experiences.
Brilliant. And you're both so passionate about it. And Claire, I was just going to say, well done. Anything for you to say as well?
I was just going to say that there is, if you haven't already seen it, in our booth, there is a video that we filmed with our CEO and all of the networks. You'll see Bianosa starring. So it's worth a little look, because that really does give you a flavour of some of those networks and the conversations that we're having. So yeah, and my point was going to be exactly like Bianosa's. I think we're just seeing more and more inspiring female role models. I mean, only this week they've announced a new managing director of British Gas Services Solutions is female, and we're starting to see some really exciting women changing things at the top. So it's an exciting time to join and be a part of that.
Brilliant. Well, that's about time that we've got, even though I'd love to carry on talking. It sounds amazing. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing all of that. And I mean, if anyone wants to apply, it sounds like a brilliant place to work. And all three of you there have sold it. So thank you so much. So in terms of next steps, we've got a little bit of time to go to the booth. So there are quite a few questions. So if you didn't have your question asked, please go to the booth, and hopefully you can all answer them. And we'll be back on the stage at 1:05 with our next presentation. So thank you all. See you all later.